Hey everybody, it's Gonzo. This is Mark. Today we're going to talk about the beginner's guide to running the game. First time Dungeon Masters.
That was an exciting time.
It's scary too.
It is scary.
Not scary like your mutant eyebrow.
Oh man, why do you gotta go with the eyebrow? You gotta go there.
But okay, so speaking of eyebrows, if you haven't subscribed to Dungeon Class yet, please take the time to hit that button. Hit the like button, share in the comments below some ideas you may have on ideas for tips for Dungeon Masters when they're just starting. Because, as we both know, Mark, it's rough to get started as a Dungeon Master. It can be pretty intimidating.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's some tips, and we have our top 4. Stay tuned for our number 1. It's really special. But go ahead and let us know the 4th best tip on beginning to run the game as a Dungeon Master.
4th best tip would be prepared. Be prepared with equipment. Things are going to go crazy, but you can prepare for some stuff ahead of time. Some things you want to bring to be ready. Like you're going to want to have your DMG, your Dungeon Master's Guide. You're going to have your Player's Handbook. Yeah. Player's Handbook you may not use as much, but someone's going to have a question. You can answer that. Yeah, and like, I don't remember I'm supposed to do. Here you go. Look it up. Extra dice. You want to bring that. And maybe some pre-gen characters for people. If you have some new players or whatever, it may be a good idea just to hand them one, kind of feel them out a little bit. If they are like really not so sure about this game, one way to kind of get them in might be to just give them a pre-gen and just get into the game.
That's a good idea.
And also a DM screen. You want to have that unless you want to go old school. As everything's out there in the open. I mean, some people want to play that way. I don't know if I trust that or not, but anyway, but that's what some people. But typically people like to have a DM screen so you can kind of hide those roles behind your.
Yeah, a couple more things I would add to that list too is a random name generator or something. Whether it's an app on your phone or a program you may have,
or a baby name book. I've seen people do that. Yeah, use baby name books.
Yeah, a list of names because there's nothing worse than them. Players asking you, okay, you walk into a shop, there's a storekeeper, you have his name ready, and there's 2 guards. What are the guards' names?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm an enchanter. By what name are you known? There are some who call me Tim.
So have a name, a random name generators, and also something to give out. This is a little bonus, but something you can give out as an inspiration point, something physical. It's really fun as a player when a Dungeon Master says, hey, you get an inspiration point for being really creative in the way you handled that combat scenario. And they hand you something representing that, whether it's an oversized dice or a little fake gold coin or something, anything. But it's really neat as a Dungeon Master to be able to hand something out in front of the other players to encourage everyone to want it because we all want stuff.
I want all this stuff.
Yeah, something to give out. But that's my idea. So
all right. So what's another thing?
Number 3.
Another tip.
Fun trumps the rules.
Okay.
And what we're talking about here is a lot of times players expect the Dungeon Masters to know all the rules. You need to know every spell, how it works, what's the range, what are the spell components, how many key points do I use for this.
Where do you live?
In the city.
Do you have a house?
Apartment.
Own or rent?
Rent.
What do you do for a living?
Lots of things.
Where's your office?
I don't have one.
How come?
I don't need one.
Where's your wife?
Don't have one.
How come?
It's a long story.
There's so many things going on in the game of D&D, this 5th edition, even as simplified as it is, that there's not it gets very difficult to know all the rules for everything, especially when we get new source material books and there's a lot more to learn. So one of the things you can do is to outsource a lot of that. Now you mentioned this when we were talking about this.
Yeah, so basically you just say, hey, you need to know your character and what your character can do. You're responsible for how many spell slots and all those kind of things, what your spells do. You're responsible, and just put that on the players and just say, look, I'm trusting you that you're going to know what you're supposed to do. And if you can't remember, then look it up. Don't expect me to know all of that while we're playing the game.
Right.
And honestly, if you do that, it's going to help you. But 2, no one wants to just stop and say, oh, 1 second, let's look and see. Do they really want you to have to look things up to remember how to do? I mean, that's going to slow the game down. And also brings us up to the next point is that if something comes up in game, they say, I think this is how the spell works. I'm not really sure. As a DM, you adjudicate and move on. So you say,
make a decision.
You're like, hey, all right, that sounds good. Let's go with that. And then if you really want to know, was that right or not, you can even wait even at the end of the night and look it up, But don't hold up the game and stop and let's look that up and find out the right answer. Because honestly, that's not what really is important. I'd keep the flow of the game going.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun. Is the game keeps moving along, and we're not bogged down with finding out the minutia of the plan.
Right.
then you'll be able to, have a great time playing the game. You can find out the information later and move on. So I like that. Fun trumps rules. All right, our number 2 tip.
Yeah, so know your table. Know who you're dealing with. Read the room. Yeah, get to know, observe what's going on in your game. Keep an eye on is everyone having fun. Be observant. You look around and see this one person, one player doesn't seem to be having fun. They don't seem to be liking these puzzles per se. Maybe you need to shift on to something else. Think about the pillars of the game: the social interaction, exploration, combat. Maybe you need to shift to one of those. Maybe one's getting bored. Those are the kind of things you don't have to necessarily do that right now. But like if you notice that half of the party really doesn't like puzzles that much, as you're planning later, you could use that as an idea and say, I think that makes sense maybe not to have a lot of puzzles because they don't seem like puzzles. I'll have more combat. So
your players are on their phone, they're not paying attention. You can tell that things are going awry. Maybe they're bored at some point. So be able to observe not only the players, but observe yourself too. Are you telling too much of your story? And not the story that the players are more interested in, which may be their backstory or their personal goal. So not only observe your players, but observe yourself. Number one. Okay. Our number 1 tip on running the game for the first time as a dungeon master is be ready to be flexible, to be adaptable.
I like this.
To be the king of improv. Not like that. Not like that. To be the king of improv. Why? Because nothing goes according to plan. No. You as a dungeon master can't help it. You're going to create a great adventure. You're going to have a great storyline with a hook that they can't miss, with story elements and plot goals and treasure that they're going to want to have. And no matter what you do, they're going to go the other way and burn the other city down and not the one that you expected them to. Fireball! 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 So be prepared to be flexible with the story. It is a mental exercise, Mark.
Yes.
It isn't something that not all of us have right away. It does take a little bit of time, but do not be afraid of it.
One way to get good at this adaptation, we've actually come up with an idea that will help exercise that muscle that you may have, that adaptability muscle, and that is our adventure video, which you can check out right here. The adventure challenge, where we challenge ourselves outside the game. These are some things you can do when you're not doing it. You quickly learn how to adapt quickly to a situation, and it is intimidating that people they're like, how do I do that? But it's okay. You can do it. I promise you. Just as you do it more and more, it becomes a little easier, and you can plan for the chaos that's going to happen.
Yeah, chaos is definitely going to happen, and this will definitely help. Also, don't be afraid to borrow storylines from anything you need to do to get the game back on track, so to speak. The information they should have gotten from the guy at the bar that they killed maybe comes to them in the form of a dream or something else. You've got to think in those terms, like I can still get that to them later, or they find a note on the body of the person they killed and that gives them the information they needed. But it does take a little bit of practice, but do not be intimidated by that. This is something everyone can do, and it just takes a little bit of practice. So definitely check out that video where we show you how to do a mental exercise and be able to do that. And these are some great tips for running the game as a new dungeon master. We encourage all players to look and see if that's something you'd enjoy doing, and don't be afraid to try it out. It's a lot of fun. I actually enjoy that more than playing. I think most dungeon masters do once they get the hang of it. There are some things that may appear as roadblocks that really aren't, that you can get through, and we encourage you to do it. So with that, class dismissed.